Hi, hello, and welcome to According to Weeze, the podcast, where we're going to have candid conversation with the hopes of finding a way forward in community. See, we exist and experience life at the intersection of our complex identities and our socio-cultural and political systems. And let's be real, the only way to dismantle it all is to start by dissecting it. So get cozy, get comfy, and let's dive in. All right, we are back for another episode of According to Weeze, the podcast. Today, I am super amped for our guests. Wanted to have them on for season 1, and the universe does not make mistakes. I truly believe that, right? Like, if you submit to the timing of the universe and trust the process, things may not work out how you want them to, but they work out how they're supposed to. And this is one of those instances, because there needed to be, time and space and development around some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But I am so glad to have Rebekah Borucki. I always say your name wrong, Mama. I'm so sorry. Borucki. I'm going to get it.
So do I. Neither of us are Polish.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to get it. Borucki. I'll just tell the people quickly, and then I'll kick it off to you, because they know that the fancy bio will be in the show notes. But I actually very randomly, this was like one of those chain of events where like somebody's orbiting in your like virtual field. Like, I didn't even know that you knew Trudy like at all when I first like found you on IG. And I found you on IG because it was like somebody reposted something about like books, and I'm a book nerd. And then I was just like, oh, I really like how she talk about shit. and then like I kind of just kept looking. And then, this is at the time that I think you had released the first Zara book. And, you were trying to raise money for the baby so you could give them all the books. And I just like loved it and was like, what do you need? And like, I'm going to post it. And at the time, I definitely did not give 2 fucks about putting energy into Instagram. So I was like, I ain't got that many followers. I literally just got on Instagram, but like, I'll do what I can. And then it was just like a beautiful kind of development where I'm like, oh, Trudy, like, here's this person and they do really cool things. She's like, oh, Bex. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know this person? But anyways, that being said, again, trust the universe. Like, it was just one of those things where like I believe in if you feel like a vibrational frequency in alignment with a person and what they're doing, like, and you can reach out and like build community or support, like, do it. And so I did it. And then here we are.
I'm so glad I'm here.
Sometime later.
I really am. And it is perfect timing. The universe does not make mistakes. I mean, people are terrible.
Yeah. Wait, that needs to be a shirt. The universe doesn't make mistakes, but people are terrible. I mean,
but they are.
Yeah, they are.
Because I don't want to get into that space of like, everything happens for a reason. And
oh,
stuff.
God,
like,
no.
People fuck it up. But the universe is perfect, and this is perfectly timed because, I know some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, and I'm just so glad that I get to speak from a place of having healed a little bit and getting some perspective and distance, because I don't like to show up angry. I don't like to show up raw like I do. I stop myself. But no, I think this is perfect timing. I'm excited to talk today and be with you.
You're welcome. So before we jump into the convo itself, why don't you just real quick run down social identifiers and then, tell the people a little bit about yourselves, what you want them to know in this moment within the context of this conversation.
People should know that I'm 42, but I feel 117 because I have 5 kids. I'm a teen mom, so I have like the 23-year-old, 21, 17, 9, and 6. One of my children is trans, and that's why I'm in the LGBTQIA activism space a lot. I am Black biracial. You don't see me right now, so I will describe myself as ambiguously brown or ambiguously tan, which has got me lots of opportunities and also caused a lot of trouble in my life. She, her are my pronouns. I'm married to a man, and I mean, what else is there to know? I'm a mom. I write books. But my most important job is being a mom and just like trying to create a world that I want my kids to be able to live in, because I want grandbabies so bad.
Oh yeah, that's on the docket. Like, give me babies.
Oh, none of my kids want kids. They're being the worst. There's a neighbor. There's a neighbor down the street. She went to high school with my daughter, and she's pregnant right now. I just found out she's 8 months pregnant, and I was on that. Like, do you need anything? Can I help you? I'm a doula. And so I would just want to get my hands on that baby. So
I wish y'all could see her facial expression, because the amount of actual like joy and thrill and excitement coming through your face right now is everything.
I just want to hold the baby. I don't want to have another baby. I just want to be around babies. And I would love to be a grandma. Winona, if you're listening, she doesn't listen to anything I do or say. But if you're listening, really, I will pay you. I will do anything to get this child.
I mean, look, that's a pretty sweet deal. If I have a baby, I'll let you know. You can hold it.
I'm here.
Listen, this is recorded, okay? You can't
I don't front. Like, if I say it, if I put it out there, like, you can call me. I'm not like a let's do lunch person. Like, right. I will be there babysitting.
Yes. Okay, perfect. I really want to dive into this conversation because selfishly, I've just wanted to have it for months and months and months. First, I'm just going to remind the listeners that we are a fully authentic, permission-giving space. And so I know, Bex, you said you don't like to show up angry, but y'all are going to get the gamut. We don't know. This is an authentic conversation, nothing planned. And this is people's real lives, And so what comes up is what comes up. And so also just full permission for you, Bex, to show up how you need to. I know I don't necessarily need to give you that permission. But
no, it's appreciated.
Nice. Yeah.
No, it is nice to have. Thank you.
Yeah. God, you know what? I'm going to ask you, where would you start this story?
I'll start it by saying that in October of last year, 2020, I left Hay House Publishing, which is a mid-sized publisher, but also like the largest mind, body, spirit publisher in the world. I left them because they were engaging in practices that I found to be racist, dangerous. They were very active in digging their heels in to support people who I consider to be white supremacists, conspiracy theorists. And this was the end of a very, very, very long battle that I was waging with them, that I thought was turning around. But in the end, they showed who they were. So, and I need people to know that for me, Hay House was my dream publisher. They published 2 of my books. Both of them were offered on exclusive. I had a copy of Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life in my house. I have the first edition that was on my mom's bookshelf. Like, that's the place that I wanted to be, and I envisioned myself. And truth be told, I was held there. Like, I was loved there. I felt nourished and nurtured there. A lot of people there are really, really, really good folks. In the end, the powers that be were just not something that I could get down with. So I canceled my contract for my children's book, and I left. I was a mentor in their Diverse Wisdom Initiative, which brings in Black and Brown authors, which I can't believe they're still doing it. But yeah. I left as a mentor, and I'm better for it. I've experienced more freedom and happiness in my work than ever before, because I didn't realize how much I had been, I think, being an oppressor of self. There's a lot of, oppression that I was co-opting by being part of that company.
This point that you make around like self-oppression, like I want to pause here for a second before we get to like the decision that you made, right? And like having to leave and the impact that it had, because I think it's something that we don't talk about enough, just like we as a society in general, but especially as folks who hold marginalized identities, across the board, how we a lot of the times not only end up co-opting oppression by like being okay, or quote unquote, right, big air quotes, being okay, or being a part of an organization that we know is actively causing harm, and also having to co-sign our own oppression in order to get a book published or get a paycheck or, what have you. So did you have like, what was the moment for you where you were like, oh yeah, no, y'all got me fucked up? Like when you like saw it both like how you were participating by staying there, but also like how you were almost like co-signing it for yourself?
I gotta just go back a little bit and just give a little background on me. So I am a product of an extramarital affair. My mother is white. She had a love affair with a Black man, got pregnant. My parents, who ended up raising me, her husband who was white, and they kept the pregnancy a secret. We went to a hospital in Camden that was very far from where I lived, and they had all the adoption papers signed. Like, my birth certificate doesn't even have any information on it at all. Like, not my parents' names, like nothing, because they were giving me away. And my dad, who ended up raising me, asked the nurses to see me. They were like, she is not yours. Like, there was all the Black nurses like, she's not yours. Yeah. My blue-eyed, blonde-haired, Swedish father. And he said, he's a religious man. He said, Jesus spoke to me in that moment, and he said that I was meant to keep you and that you were mine. And when he told me this at 26 years old, he said, and that is the end of the story. Now, I knew my whole life growing up, but that was the only time I've ever spoken to him about that. So there's this thing in me, I don't talk about a lot. So this is interesting that I'm so happy, like, this feels safe because I want to talk about this, but there's this part of me that it's like, I am so grateful that someone rescued me, that I have to be the best, right? Like, I'm so, like, growing up, it was always like, I just performed because I just wanted to earn my place.
Yeah. And
that has permeated every single aspect of my life. So when Hay House, this place that I wanted to be so much, said, like, I accept you, it was like, I am not going to say a word, right? So it was not my self, oppression and myself, like, muting, stifling. That was all okay. That could have gone on forever. Honestly, if they wouldn't have tripped up with other people, like, I would still be there. And I'm not proud to say that, but that's the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
It was when I saw other people being hurt and what was really happening that it was like, oh, no. So, that's something I have to work on for myself.
Yeah.
But that's just how I am trying not to show up in the world. But it is because, like, especially as someone who, like, knew that I started unwanted in a way.
Yeah.
And I was like the anchor that kept my mother in the relationship, because she had to stay, it was just like all this stuff. And it's why still with identity, and we talked before we started recording about, like, kind of being ambiguous, that sometimes that desperation not to be white.
Let's not be clear.
No offense to white folks. I have a lot of them in my house. Okay. But to be accepted.
Yeah.
By my Black sisters and brothers. And what's so interesting is, like, growing up, I always was.
Yeah.
My first experience of not being accepted as exactly who I said I was as an adult, was when I started entering, like, different spaces, because, like, growing up, I went to a Black church. I had, my Black friends, like, that was my community outside of my home. Mm-hmm. So there's just still, like, I wanted to be accepted and valued. And, Hay House, I've said this before, I went there. I believe now that the reason that I went there was to become the woman that could walk away. I needed so badly to be able to have the courage to say, no, you can't. No, I'm not. And, but it was painful. I felt like I lost a family. I was crying on the call when I told the vice president, she was the one who acquired my first book, and she had been like a mentor to me. Like, she was crying, I was crying. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But, they fucked up, and they continue to.
One, thank you for sharing all of that. I think that it's really important to note, because I don't want this, like, to go over anybody's head, right? Like, we have a lot of conversations right now around, like, all the racial dynamics, right? Black, white, Latinx, API, Indigenous, and a lot of times the experience of, like, the racially ambiguous or, like, the mixed or multiracial identity is, like, really lost, and it doesn't get spoken to. So I just really want to name that I know that there are listeners that are like, me too, like, that are having that moment. Shit, I had, like, you were talking, I was like, oh shit, I'm about to drop a little thug tear, because, like, I get
but
that,
I also
right?
want to acknowledge too, it's hard because I also know there's listeners who are like, you got, the quote unquote good hair, you got the light skin, 100%. You got all that. And it's like, I fully acknowledge my privilege, fully acknowledge my privilege and the spaces that I get to enter and navigate and, be welcomed into because of the way that I look or whatever. And so like, I want to acknowledge that too. It's just so freaking complicated. And I think that's why it's so important for us to talk, speak from our own experiences.
Yeah.
And just really be so real and so honest and so transparent about our own experiences.
Yeah.
We're caught in this place of trying to advocate for other people so much that we're speaking over them.
Yeah. I just love that we like get to really name that in this episode. And to be fair, I do forget because like I know you so well and I listen to you talk all the time that I forget that people don't know that about you. They've heard me say it. They've heard other guests that we've explicitly said it, and so I'm going to reiterate it here for anyone who maybe like didn't catch it. Like Bex also fully understands colorism and the way in which colorism and, ambiguity has enabled her to have more access, right, than visibly Black women and deeply melanated Black women who, quote unquote, don't have the good hair and the light skin and, and all of those other things. And so, yeah, that is really important to name. So thank you for naming that like on the show because I'm like, oh, I know that's how you operate. But not everybody listening knows you, even though they should. But it is. It's a really important note because that's actually, so it's like a perfect segue because when I hear you saying like, oh, well, like I could have taken it for me like all day. Like I would have just sat there and taken it. But like when it happened to another person, like when I'm seeing other folks have this experience, right, of like being harmed, that's when it's like, that's the you got me fucked up moment, right?
Yeah,
of like,
because I was complicit. That's the other thing. It's just like,
right.
Now I have an audience. My audience is very diverse. Goodness, I love them very dearly. I am bringing them to this place because Hay House is not just a publisher; it's a community. It's like you don't like buy a Simon and Schuster book and be like, I want to get all the Simon and Schuster authors. But people do that with Hay House. Yeah. So I knew that I was endorsing, every other author at Hay House. So I'm bringing them into a very, very, very unsafe space.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I can't do that. It's just it felt terrible. It felt so shit. Like I'm reliving it. Like, oh, it was just so gross. And I don't consider myself, I don't think I'm a naive person, but the level of disillusionment that happened after that, like authors where I was like in their homes, slept in their homes, like helped them through pregnancies, like came for me and tried to hurt me.
Oh, wow.
And people I know, like, come on.
Yeah.
White supremacy is a hell of a drug.
I was just gonna say that. And I think so some of y'all might remember when this first kind of like bubbled up and came to the surface. I won't say any of their names because as far as I'm concerned, they're all complicit in it, whether they wrote the book and believe the conspiracy theory about the dragons and the lizards or they just signed the check.
I wish we had dragons and lizard people.
I do too. Like actually though, like let's hold on as an aside. Like I am a super, super like sci-fi nerd, Game of Thrones.
Same.
Like I'm into all of it. Do you know how fucking cool it would be if they were real? Like I would geek out. I would be the first one to like, I'm like, can I meet them? Do they speak English? Do I need to learn another language? Like, what's up?
Unfortunately, it's just not the case.
Right. So like all of that combined with the ways in which, we really did see mainstream identities weaponized through authorship, right? And through the positionality of like authorship. And I say mainstream because, God, there was transphobia, xenophobia, queerphobia, racism. Like, I was like, oh, we just running it all down, like all the
they were working hard. They were working hard to be terrible.
Yeah. I was like, y'all are like working overtime. And so you had posted about it, and so then I started reposting. Then I did the thing that I do where I like find, I do have to say this publicly. At no point was Bex like, hey, Weeze, go find all of the VP and the, all the other people that I started tweeting and then asked all of y'all to tweet.
It's all coming back to me now. You did all of that.
Yeah. And then I was like, maybe I should have been like, is this okay? But I was so angry because I knew exactly, like I saw it and I knew exactly what it was. And then when I saw, I'm the person that like, I'm gonna do all the research before I like start running my mouth about something. So then I went to all the authors that you had either mentioned or were like kind of like on the other side. And I'm like looking at their bios and the work that they do and the reach that they have and like what they're spewing. And I'm like, oh my God, even if like you, Bex, decide not to do anything, like now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. So like I went and found everyone's Twitter handle and then asked everybody to like tweet and retweet. And so some of y'all might remember that moment, but then, right, it was kind of like, just so from the outside, it's like, this happens, like the news breaks, we start seeing a lot of folks with mainstream identities and some without, that don't have mainstream identities, but are so in line with white supremacy, right? And like are clinging to the proximity, to power that like they're supporting. And then it was like, Bex out, right? Like the decision comes and like it's public now. You're like, I'm leaving. I've left Hay House. Mm-hmm. So you leave Hay House. What was that experience like? Like, what was that moment like for you?
So we all know like how our Instagram algorithms work. We know like what's going to get the likes and mm-hmm. what's going to get ignored. And like, I felt like I had to say something to my people who follow me like closely. So I posted it at night when nobody ever likes my stuff. This was me trying to be slick, like not get attention, but just really like speak to my people collectively. Because it was, I wrote those posts. I'm not a person who cries. I'm a dry crier. So I was kind of just like, and like I'm writing this and it felt terrible. I had no expectation that people were going to pay attention, like people I didn't know. And immediately there was like this rush of DMs, of support. This is so great. I couldn't do this. And I have to answer to that. Why not? Right. All I did was type some things on a phone, but okay. I could never do this. I can never be this brave, blah, blah, blah. Then it was the Hay House executives writing me from their private email and saying, this is something that I'm also considering. Yeah. I'm just here to affirm what you're saying. And to that, I say, do you have 5 kids that you're trying to feed? Why aren't you saying that? So it was supportive, and I thanked them graciously, but also in the back of my head, I'm just like, motherfucker. Yeah. Like, how about you not make me brave? How about you make this easy for me? Like, it's nothing. And everyone, but I am going to name a couple names. I'm going to name Juliet Diaz, who sells 100,000 books a year. She's a powerhouse at Hay House. Who spoke out immediately. She had my back immediately. I didn't have to ask her for shit. And she was just like, you know what? I'm walking too. F this noise. And Megan Watterson, a white woman, who I will say now, I don't have permission, but I'm going to say it now. When I had my first interactions with Hay House and called them on their nonsense, she wrote to me privately and said, anything you need. You want me to walk, I walk. You want me, like, she was just there for it, letting me lead. And she left and posted publicly without me asking. She did call me and say, I don't want to center myself in this conversation, so I want to make sure this is okay. And I said, this is the time, white woman, to center yourself in this conversation. Right. Because no one cares what I'm saying. Right. And you are going to add, you have credibility. Like, they're just going to be like, okay. So then she left and gave up her contract or whatever, taking her book to another publisher. So I do want to name Juliet Diaz and Megan Watterson as people that just showed up. Juliet, because she doesn't have a choice. Like, that's who she is. And Megan, because she does have a choice. Yeah. And she made that. So it was weird. It was surreal. I was doing something that felt to me dangerous, not because I thought I was in any physical danger or whatever, but I was just like, this is it. Like, I really believed 100% this is the end of my career as a published author. Like, this is it. I had to have, hard conversations with my husband. I mean, it didn't turn out that way. It was awesome. A couple of days later, someone was like, they texted me and they were like, so what about you start your own Hay House? And I was like, yeah, we'll call it Bay House. And I'm talking to a white woman, so she didn't get it. She was like, wow, this woman.
I was like, oh my God, that's so cute.
So she was like, whatever. Ignored me for like 3 days because she thought I was crazy. And we put together a plan, and I can say now very happily I'm in the friends and family seed round of raising funds for a new publishing house that I'm putting together that is an equitable, totally transparent model where every single author, no matter what size of your platform, is getting the same advance and the same royalty, which is 4 times industry average. We made it 40-40 in honor of 40 acres and a mule. So it's $40,000 advance and 40% royalty. and we're doing it. We're doing it. It was hot. And the experience of being able to build something like really on my values, 100%, hiring the people I want, acquiring the books that I want, is just like, I didn't know it could be this good. Yeah. You don't have to compromise.
Yeah.
I mean, look, again, I have a network. I have privilege. I have a lot of stuff going on for me that a lot of people don't have access to. And that is what I want to change. It's like, you know, more people need more access, more money, more say, more agency. So, and I'm in publishing, so this is what I can do.
Yeah.
I give you very long answers. I'm sorry.
No. I love it. I'm like, you're a storyteller through and through, right? Whether it's writing or talking, like, I love it. And I really want to highlight two things that you said. The first is just because my thought was like, as you were talking, and I already know the story, I'm still like, fuck, like, why is it always on us, like the marginalized, those that are being harmed and oppressed in whichever our identities are being oppressed or the multiplicity of them, right? Why is it always up to us to have to give up what we have worked so hard to build?
So hard.
Right? Like,
yeah.
How different, and this is really just like, there's no answer. I mean, I know what the answer is, but this is just like for listeners to really be thinking about is like, if you hold privilege in any way, right? Whether you're a white person, whether you're cisgendered, whether you're male, whether you're heterosexual, like English is a first language, like we could go on and on and on and all of the different versions of privilege. How different could things be if when you had the opportunity to actually take a stand and say something instead of telling us how brave and resilient we are?
Mm-hmm. I don't want to be resilient.
No.
I want to stop coming back from things.
Listen, I don't want to have to keep, like, the comeback. No, like, I don't want to. Because you only come back when you've been knocked on your ass.
Exactly.
Resilience is like, oh, we tried to kill you, but bitch, you just won't die. No.
But I will tell you that what's happened is so different. You know, like we all do these like, well, first of all, I'm not going to name any names. Okay. But there are people, because I'm just not interested in that anymore. And I want to talk about that, like why the whole naming name thing and canceling. But there were people that definitely snubbed me for a really long time that are now, post-2020, paying me to come onto their platform. And I will take it because I will take that platform.
Yes.
I will take and use that platform.
Hello, Jack.
Like I've never been paid for a summit. Like we do those kinds of things all the time. Like, oh, we'll just grow our audience or whatever. Yeah. And I made more speaking fees than ever. Not talking about racism or anti-racism. Yeah. Just like people want to hear my story. People want to be connected to me. I think that is a shift that's happened in 2020 across the board. Is that Black women are getting paid. People just in general are being honored for their time. And that's a great lesson that came out of it. And people are reaching out and saying like, how can I help? I had, and I feel like I can ask for the help. So I had this, I have a partnership with a national online public school platform. And at the very last minute, they doubled their order for copies of my book, my children's book. They're turned into a second grade curriculum. It's part of the curriculum.
So
Zara has her own unit. I'm very excited.
That's so exciting.
I know it is. But then they said, you can fill that order, right? And I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
I'm like on the phone with this executive buyer guy at like $35,000. I do not have $35,000 liquid to just go do this right now.
Yeah.
So I was able, I said, you know what? Let's test this. Let's test this activism. And I went back to the people with the black boxes and whatever. And I said, hey, y'all, I need this much. My credit is not great because I'm co-signing all of my daughter's student loans. Where can I get $35,000 in like 2 days? And they came through.
That's dope.
Because whether it's begrudgingly, whether it's they're doing it for the optics, I don't know. I care, but like I want the action to happen anyway. But it's right. Like they showed up. And what that means is, what that means is when they invest in me, is my community is sharing in that wealth. And that is why I just don't even care about like taking the money. Because it's like, you got to Robin Hood it sometimes,
I was literally just going to say that because if somebody gave me $40 billion right now, I'm like, let me tell you what I would do, right? Like my list starts with first making sure that my closest family and friends are no longer in debt and that everybody's kids can go to school if they want to. And then it's like buying land back to rematriate for indigenous tribes. Giving money to everyone who is houseless, like creating sustainable living models. Like, if you give money to people who are community-minded, everybody fucking wins. The community wins. Because so the government doesn't give a fuck about us. Let's just be real. Even Robinette and Harris, yeah, they're a lot better than Trumpelstiltskin, but let's be real. Like, where's our money, Joe? We're still waiting. You wrote in how many executive orders on day one, but not nary a check was signed. Sir, I'm just saying. For
the new publishing house, we actually had the COO, CFO of Simon & Schuster, David Ulau. He did our numbers for us. He ran our numbers because we were like, is this even something we could do? And he's like, it's ambitious, but like, I'm cheering you on. He was really, really excited about it. And we had a meeting with a very powerful woman in publishing. She actually publishes and edits for a lot of big anti-racism names, but white women all the same. And she had a meeting with us. She sat with us for 2 hours. It was very gracious of her, but the whole time she was just telling us how impossible it was. Like, she was basically laughing us out of the phone call when we're telling the numbers. And by the end of it, though, when I started, talking about my friends, not my network, not my associates, like talking about my friends with like 2 million followers or selling hundreds of thousands of books, that she doesn't realize that they actually don't care about that $500,000 advance from that other place if they think that their community is going to get an opportunity by them lifting them up through signing with me.
Exactly.
And she's like, and by the end, she was like, oh, would you like want to partner on audio? Do you have an audio department? I was like, yeah, nah.
You're like, I'm going to talk to Jay-Z at Tidal for that. Thank you.
So it's just so interesting that like, the reason why, and they kept saying, like, if you could give away 40% royalty, why haven't you done it yet? Well, it's no different than the music industry. Like, people are getting robbed and exploited. So it's like, I can still make a lot of money and give away 40%. And that's what, like, it hasn't been done because it's working for the people that want it to work.
Exactly. It's
and
like,
it doesn't work for me.
The system is not broken. It's working exactly as it's supposed to. So publishing is not broken. It's working as it was designed to work, which is to essentially rob creatives of their creativity and hold them captive, just like music, just like everything else. Don't even get me started on music. I started in music. A lot of people don't know that. Straight out of college. Yep. I started in the music industry.
Yeah, my sister's in the music industry. That's how I met my husband.
Oh yeah, no, I would not go back. But I love it. It's where my heart. It's one of the places my heart is at.
90% royalty is robbery. Yeah. It's immoral.
Yes. It literally that's just it. Immoral. Like, it is immoral. But I really want to like press this point, and then I want to come back to, you had posted something about Amazon, which I think is really important. And then I want to talk about how we can support you. But let's just follow my brainwave for a second.
Can't we do this for 4 hours? This is like,
really could.
I want to just keep talking to you.
I know. Okay, we like really could, but I was like, they don't need a 7-part episode. Maybe we'll just do a part 2.
They can just follow me.
Yeah. Right. So, like, if people don't understand, like, how predatory publishing is, like, I'm just going to give a little tidbit. And for you, you're probably like, duh, this is super normal. But for somebody like me, I don't know a fucking thing about publishing. I know I love books and people write them and then those people over there get it printed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not my lane. I'm a reader. That's all I know. And I write, but that's the extent of it. Over the last couple months, I've been getting emails from legitimate publishing houses because I look them up and they're like, they write it like they're offering you this amazing opportunity to write a book for them. And then it's like, me being the person I am, I'm like, cool, that sounds nice. Let's talk about brass tacks, basically. Like, what does a contract look like? What is, finances and, compensation and blah, blah, blah. And every single one of them. Well, we would advance you basically $4. Literally, like maybe 2, 3 zeros, maybe. The highest one I saw was like $8,000, and I was like, right, okay, so let's start there.
I gotta talk on this. Go ahead.
Let's start there. And then we will give you a wholesale discount on the book so you can buy it and then sell it through your own platform at whatever cost you'd like. I'm sorry, what? What?
Now you're the distributor?
Right, what?
Literally the only job the publishers have is printing and distributing.
Right. And so if my don't know shit about publishing ass just knows that that's your job, the math ain't mathin'. But if I was the type of person, and a lot of people are, so I don't say this like to shade anyone, right? Like I sometimes maybe am too stubborn. I can name that. I'm working on it. Like my pride is a little too prideful sometimes, where like I read that and I'm like, you would have to steal the words out of my cold, dead brain and put them on paper before I ever signed that. Like that's just like heels in the ground. No, because it just feels predatory. I understand why a lot of authors would do that, though, or people that want to write books, at least for their first book, they're like, well, especially if I'm melanated or marginalized in any kind of way, nobody else is fucking paying attention to me. So at least this gives me credibility. I get printed, I'm out there, but then I'm fucked, right? So, but this, like, it was not one, it was not two, like, at least a dozen offers, and they were all the exact same model. It's predatory. It is so
100%,
predatory.
Because, okay, so for them to make their money back on that like piddly little advance, it's nothing. And then they make it in perpetuity. So if they get a hit, they like really hit, but they're not investing anything in that hit because they don't need to. It's like gambling. So it's self-perpetuating. So they'll take someone like, let's just J-Lo, right? She gets a book deal and they're going to give her like $3 million. They know that she's going to make that money, or they feel like very confident that she's going to make that money back. But because they invested $3 million, they're also going to work. So they're going to be in partnership with J-Lo to really make this book successful. Their PR is going to be on it. Like they're going to sell the shit out of that book. Now, with someone that, but J-Lo doesn't need it.
J-Lo has the money to hire her own editor. J-Lo has the money and the connections to like get the book out to millions of people. So conversely, a publisher will come to you or me or whatever, and they'll say, we're going to give you this little bit of money. We're going to give you $5,000, $10,000. I'll tell you right now, an editor for a book is going to eat up all of that. And then your agent has to get paid. But like now you have nothing. You can't market yourself. You can't build a website. You can't do anything. So your book, unless it's like a miracle, odds are your book is not going to do really well. You're going to sell to your friends and family, your social circle, whatever. So it just self-perpetuates. And the people who need the bigger advance, like don't get it. The royalties, the publisher always makes out because you could be very unsuccessful in selling books and they'll still get their money back. And I didn't see that as fair. So that was the idea for the $40,000 advance. Like, a big author is not, someone with a big platform, they're not going to care about that. But that $40,000 royalty in perpetuity, they're like, yeah, I want that because they're going to make so much money because they sell a lot of books. But for that person that like is never going to see $40,000 for an advance, like that pays for your editor, that gets your website, that puts your launch together. You can throw a little party for yourself. Like you can do all the things you need to do. It's just structurally so messed up and it doesn't have to be. Yeah. Like people can still make money, you just don't make as much. And like, why is that a bad thing? It's like more is not always more. Mm-hmm. But again, I think we're looking through a different lens. We have different backgrounds, we have different communities, we see different things.
Yeah.
And I always felt favored by being, and this comes from a religious background, but it was like, I always felt favored by being more like Jesus, we're just people walking around in robes and sandals and trying to help out our brothers and sisters. We're not trying to be in big fancy temples. And it's just not what we wanted. Yeah. But
I also real quick, if you could speak to this, because I'm a reader. So when I want to learn about something, I go to the internet. But I recognize that the internet is not always right. Depends who wrote it. But there's also, and I'm curious, like how I feel like I know how y'all will handle this differently, but I'd love for you to speak to it. Just also the reality that like, depending on a person's social identities, they're not going to get the same marketing budget because, they quote unquote don't test as well in certain demographics. So you might have and I'm a name names, you might have a Robin DiAngelo who writes a book. And then you have a Crystal Fleming who writes a phenomenal fucking book that is, for all the reasons, so much better. Y'all have heard my IG Live on it. By the same publisher, but don't have the same, marketing budget, promotional budget, PR budget, if you will. I don't know what the exact terminology is, but like basically the money that gets them out there, that PR budget, based solely on the fact that you have a white woman and a black woman.
100%. They're going to go where they feel like they're going to get the biggest return for their investment. I've heard so many times from Hay House too, like, you have to understand this is a business. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how I do business.
Yeah.
So we have different ideas about what is good business. It's really, it's disgusting. It's frustrating. I think this is where I'd like to talk about Amazon, because I think
that was going to be the next thing that I ask you about, because everyone knows how I feel about Bezos and Amazon, and also, right?
Yeah. And he is the devil. He is the devil. And he created the largest vehicle for self-publishers to be able to get their books out there. Mm-hmm. It's the most, I mean, if you're going to sell a ton of books, it's not the most cost effective. I get my books printed in China by like the thousands, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. But like, if I couldn't do that, like, I'd be going to Amazon because it's print on demand and it works for people. So I'll see people are like, I'm just not giving Amazon my people. It's always people with a hold visible privilege. I'll just they're just like, I'm not giving my money to Amazon and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, but like, that is literally the only place that you can buy that black woman's book.
Right.
And also, don't put her through the whole labor of telling you all these different ways, or making her book available to you and shipping it out herself from her house and whatever, because you can't understand that there's so much nuance in everything, and so many different levels of justice and ways that we have to work within a system that we hate and that oppresses us, so that we can have a glimpse of maybe getting free. It's frustrating to no end. So yeah, Jeff Bezos, devil. Amazon, huge vehicle that allows people to have agency in their words, and puts in, because that's a whole other point. Like, when my editors at Hay House tried to get me to say African American instead of black, and I was like, what?
Wait, what?
I have never said African American in my whole life, and no offense to people who use it.
What is this, 1980 Ronald Reagan? Like, no. What?
Or they ask, is it really important that you say, Miss Jean at my church, I said that she was like a black single mother of 6. And they're like, is it necessary to say that she's black? Because the story's about motherhood. And I'm like, it's always necessary. It's always
Face
necessary.
Right. Anyway. And capitalize the B and say it with your chest, Hay House.
So, this whole idea of like voting with your dollar, and, trying to patronize people that have like good values behind their business practice and all that. It's a very nice concept, but also it is steeped in messages of privilege, and you really have to understand what you're saying. You need to like save 20 cents on eggs and get them from Walmart. Like, go be you, get your protein. Like, please go to Walmart.
20 cents across a month, across however many mouths you need to feed, adds up.
Is everything. Is
it
everything.
Makes a huge difference.
When my, ex-husband left me as a single mom of 3, I'm standing in the line for food stamps, and like, this wasn't 20 years ago. It's just like, and I still have my social services card with my sad little face. Yeah, my little sad round face and hoop earrings. Just so sad. But I got my freedom from saving my coins. And I learned from Susie Orman, and she's like, you just always break $1 and put the money in the bank, and you'll have financial freedom. And I had freedom to cash those coins back in and like buy the week's groceries whenever I needed to. Yeah. Like, that's a reality. So yeah, I mean, this is why, again, speak from your own experience, listen really hard, and whatever message or activism that you're subscribing to, like, you really have to dig. Like, this sounds good, dig deeper. Yeah. Still feels pretty good, dig deeper. Yep. Keep questioning. Never take anything as like ultimate truth, because it isn't. If there was any ultimate truth, we'd be free. Right. If there was any one way, we'd be free. Right. And we're not.
Yeah. I think that's super important too, because I think a lot of folks, especially when they first get onto their like dismantling journey, right, and like really facing whiteness, they're like, it's like these immediate quick gratifications. So they're like, and it's like so finite. Because this whole system was created in very strict binaries. So it's like, okay, good and bad. Like, okay, Bezos got to go. We hate Amazon. Not so fast, right? Like, what does long-term liberation look like? Maybe for that black woman, right? It's selling her first book on Amazon so that she can gain credibility and, a couple dollars in her pocket so that she can also then use the analytics so that she can pitch herself to a Bex, and be like, hey, well, even though I know she wouldn't have to actually pitch herself to, but I'm just saying, right? And be like, look, this is what I did by myself. I have this following. I have this credibility. I can sell. Now put money behind me, right? Maybe she needs to quote unquote hold that Amazon L for a book or two so that she can position herself within a system that has already been built to disenfranchise and make sure that she does not have that opportunity.
I mean, that's my whole thing with Hay House. It's I had to make this very clear on several occasions. I am not coming for one Black or brown author that chose to stay or get their deal. I'm not coming for you. Get your money, get your life together, get that opportunity. But there was one white author who signed a deal very recently. And, when I confronted her on it, because she very conspicuously left out, when she thanked everyone in the universe, left out Hay House, her publisher. And I was like, so who'd you sign with?
Yeah.
And when I approached her, her response was, well, what was I supposed to do? Give back the deal? Yes.
Yes.
But that's so out of the realm of understanding. And this is what I want everyone, perspective is very important. Also, perspective by definition is a very narrow view of reality. So you should always be working to expand your perspective. And the fact that she can just be like, oh my gosh, why would you ever get back your deal? And it's so funny because who are you talking to?
Right.
But it's that for something that's no duh for us.
Yeah. She
couldn't even fathom it. So that, goes back to the Amazon discussion. It's it's bigger than just what you see. And, I had a white yoga teacher from my town. I live in a very small town, 2,100 people, and she's very sincere. And she reached out to me and she sent me this work by this Black gentleman who was talking about money and finances and how there's so much opportunity for Black people and this structure or whatever. And I was and she was like, what do you think about this? I'm like, it's nice. He's a Black capitalist.
Yeah.
That's not who I am. Go buy his book. Give him your money. But this isn't what I believe. I'm not a fan of capitalism. I participate in the system because I got to eat. But
I was just going to say, how else are you going to make sure you have a roof? And
I don't think that's a solution. But it's just so interesting to me that I don't even know where I was going with that. But it's just this idea of perspective and what you're looking for. And are you just, is it confirmation bias? And are you really expanding? Are you really challenging yourself with ideas? I have to do that every day because I can talk a lot, but I'm learning to listen to as evidence with this interview.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important because I always tell folks don't argue with people who are going to weaponize marginalized identities that are spewing information that confirm their bias, right? So a Black capitalist or a Candace Owens or, you know what I mean? Because that person, to your point, is not interested in expanding their perspective.
Right.
Right. They're really not. They're really not. So, I mean, I think if anyone has learned anything from this, it's listen, folks are not monoliths. So make sure you're always asking and interrogating and digging deeper. And then lastly, the question is, Bex, how can we support you?
Okay. I have a meme. It's going to be gone by the time this publishes, but it's really cute. It's this from this cartoon and they're unsheathing a sword and it says, what makes you feel better? And it says hug. And then he unsheaths the sword all the way and it says huge amount of money. And it's I love that because that's true. Huge amounts of money. I have a children's publishing imprint called Wheat Penny Press. I publish my own books. I publish books by other authors. We participate in the Own Voices movement, which means that we support authors who share the identity with the main protagonist in their story. So my little girl is a biracial Black girl. We have a dual language Spanish-English book coming out by an Ecuadorian author. We just believe we're capable of telling our own stories. Thank you very much. So I have that publishing house. Please buy our books at wheatpennypress.com. It's also associated with my nonprofit, 501c3. 100% of your money is tax deductible that you give to us. And that supports free books Author visits. I'm telling you right now, there are schools like that I visit in Baltimore City that have fewer children's books in their library than I do in my personal collection. They never see an author because authors get paid. That's how they make their money. So we offer free author visits and programs, writing programs to kids grades K through 8. 100% of your donation goes to get the tools that they need. I do not take salary as the founder or president. So I just need money for that. I want to keep that going. It's so important to me. So that's how you can support me.
All of those links will be in the show notes also.
Thank you.
So, and I'm going to explicitly say, like, a lot of times I always tell people, like, don't just throw money at the thing. But in this particular situation with Bex, because I know what you're doing, you know what I mean? And I know how you're doing it, and you're building it from a really solid place so that there's longevity to all of these things, and it can grow beyond our wildest dreams. Throw money at this.
Yeah, like, money is what we need.
This is the thing, right? Because sometimes it's like, okay, you got to show up or you got to donate time. And in other places, yes. But right now, Bex needs money.
Well, I'll tell you this, like, just real quick. Like, I think about our ancestors, and maybe you've heard, like, it wasn't, these folks weren't slaves. They were doctors. They were royalty. They were writers. They were poets. They were like, all these midwives. And that's what I see when I go into these schools. This isn't charity. This is me looking at my family and going, oh my gosh, this diamond, this voice that's going to like save our lives when we're old. And like the planet is destroyed. Like, you teach them to write their story and feel good about telling it. Oh, it's like limitless. So we need money to do that.
That's the same reason why I'm like, people can feel, and we won't talk about it here, but because I could spend an hour. People can feel how they want to feel about Kamala Harris, but what you won't do is take away from little Black and brown girls and boys and, and our non-binary family, because I hold the belief that children know before they're ready to tell us. And, we just socialize them differently. But we are not going to take that away from them. We're not going to take away being able to see what they could be, because they don't understand how she's, what she's done in the past, or her career, or where she voted, or where she did. Like, they're too, like, let them be kids. Let them see authors. Let them see a Black or brown woman can be a VP. Let them write their own stories. Let them be that diamond in the rough. Let them become what they're going to become. I just think it's so important. I think what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
So amazing. You're amazing. You're so pretty.
You're so pretty.
You're so funny. No, but seriously, so everybody go check out all the links that are in the show notes. Obviously, follow Bex, buy her books, listen to what she says. She also, I'm just going to say this and then we can wrap up because you got to go. I know you have a life and children and a husband and things.
Cheese. I need to eat some cheese.
Oh, and cheese logs, obviously. Because we didn't really touch on it here, even though I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. Like, Bex gives away magic for free on the internet, like your meditations, like your little nuggets that you give people. I don't want people to just like see you and for all the like work that you're doing in the community and like miss out on that, because I think that it is a gift that you have that you like put out to the world.
I need to say something there, though. You've got to give me 15 more seconds.
I'll give you all the time you want, bro.
At the end of every one of my videos, I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, I love you, I love you 3 times. Another thing I say is thank you for showing up for me, because it inspires and compels me to show up for you. You are my community. You are my medicine. I am here because I need you all. I started this whole online presence because I was suffering so greatly and I really needed community. And it's like, I do give a lot, but I get a lot. And when you show up in community with me, like, I think that you'll feel that. So I do welcome you in. And I hope that like we are partners.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I will say everybody that listens to this podcast understands the concept of reciprocal community engagement.
Okay.
If they have learned nothing from me yelling at them every episode about the injustices of the world, they've picked up on that. But I really want to make sure that people are entering into community with you, because, buy the book, do all the things, yes, but like you're this fountain of wellness.
I'm just a bright light, an earth angel, like really.
Shining light, honestly. You're ethereal. I can see the orb behind you now. No, but I really wanted to name that for people. because there have definitely been moments where I'm like, ooh, I need a good 15. And I'm like, let me go to Bex's lives.
Oh.
And it'll be like, for when you're anxious, for when you're whatever. And I'm like, yeah, let me get that one.
You have a racist mother-in-law. Here, do this meditation.
Yeah, see, that's the other reason I like when like people I'm actually in community with come on, because I should probably do this more. Just like hit people up and be like, by the way, today I consumed 5 of your videos and I love you. Like, you know, because it means something.
Yes.
But I know that I've gained so much from those nuggets that you put out there. So I want everybody else to do the same.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else that you want to tell the people? Or you're like, I got to say this before we go.
I don't know. Just honor your obligation to be good in this world. Your life is a gift. So you got to show some appreciation by acting like it. Like,
that's the TLDR version of this whole episode.
Everybody can do something. So time, talent, treasure. Pick one, give from it. That's all.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Y'all got some homework to do. Go do all the things. Holler at y'all later. Bye. All right, y'all, that's all I got. But don't forget your action items. 1, join me on Podia, where you can get access to tons of BTS content, including a very special Weeze and Air interview with all of our guests. 2, rate, review, especially a written review, subscribe, like, and share this podcast with all of your peoples. 3, if you aren't already, go peep me on IG, follow me there, and, you know, most importantly, keep coming back. All right, until next time, toodles!